There are nights when your mind doesn't rest. You turn the pillow, shift your body, close your eyes, and still, your thoughts keep whispering, louder than silence. They run in circles. Did I say the wrong thing? Why did they leave? What if I never find peace again? You know that feeling when your own mind becomes a storm, when it feels like you're living two lives, one outside, smiling, doing your best, and another inside, where your heart trembles beneath the noise. This moment, right here, is for that part of you, the one that's tired of thinking, analyzing, regretting, the part that just wants to breathe again. Because peace doesn't come from fixing every thought. It comes from seeing them differently, from realizing that your thoughts are not you. They are echoes, memories, fears, and stories your mind has written to protect you. But protection can feel like a prison when you've outgrown the need to fight. Carl Jung once said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That truth stings a little, doesn't it? Because deep down, you know there are parts of you that have been calling the shots, old pain, unhealed memories, things you never said but still carry. But here's the beauty. When you stop fighting your thoughts and start listening to what they're trying to tell you, the storm softens, the noise turns into meaning. The overthinking mind isn't your enemy. It's the child inside you that's still waiting to feel safe. If you've ever felt lost in your own head, unable to stop the endless loop of what ifs, this is for you. This isn't another guide on how to think positive or silence your mind by force. It's a quiet walk home to yourself. And as you walk with me through this story, something in you might shift. Not because I'll teach you anything new, but because maybe, finally, you'll hear what your soul has been whispering all along. If you're ready, stay close. Take a breath. Let's find that peace that doesn't depend on the world being perfect, only on you being present. If you feel connected already, remember to gently subscribe so you can find your way back here whenever your mind starts to run again. There was a time when silence frightened you, not because silence itself was painful, but because in the quiet, you could finally hear yourself. The thoughts you tried to outrun, the ones you buried under busyness, noise, and distraction, came knocking. And each time they did, you pushed them away. But the truth is, silence isn't the enemy, it's the doorway. And the overthinking mind, as restless as it seems, is just trying to protect you from walking through that door too quickly. You see, overthinking is rarely about the present. It's the mind's attempt to rewrite the past and predict the future all at once. It's you replaying the moment someone hurt you, searching for the hidden reason, hoping that this time, if you can just understand it better, you'll hurt a little less. Or maybe it's you imagining every possible outcome before making a decision, terrified that one wrong move will confirm what you secretly believe, that peace isn't meant for you. But peace isn't something you find by thinking harder. It arrives when you finally stop resisting what is. Jung believed that the mind creates chaos, not because it wants to destroy you, but because it's trying to integrate what you've rejected. The overthinking isn't random. It's the language of your unlived emotions. That loop of thoughts, that restless energy, that exhaustion, it's your unprocessed pain trying to surface so it can finally leave. Think about it. Every time you overthink, what are you really trying to do? You're trying to control, to make sense of what felt senseless, to rewrite moments where you felt powerless. That's not weakness. That's survival. It's your mind's way of saying, I just don't want to be hurt again. But healing begins when you start whispering back, you're safe now. Imagine for a moment that the overthinking part of you isn't broken. It's scared. It's that child who sat in a room where no one listened, so they learned to listen to everything. They learned to analyze every silence, every change in tone, every small shift in energy, just to stay safe. So when you can't stop thinking, don't fight it. Sit with it. Ask it gently, what are you afraid will happen if you let go? The answer will come softly, maybe in a memory, maybe in a feeling, but it will come. And when it does, you'll realize overthinking was never the problem. It was your soul asking for your attention. Sometimes when you wake up in the morning, before the day begins to pull you in every direction, there's a brief, fragile moment of peace. You open your eyes, and for a split second, the world is quiet. But then it starts the flood of thoughts, plans, worries, regrets. It's as if your mind doesn't trust peace to last. It rushes in to fill the silence before your heart even has a chance to breathe. That's what overthinking does. It convinces you that safety lies in control. It whispers, if you can think it through, you can prevent the pain. But pain doesn't listen to logic. It listens to attention, and it softens when it feels seen. Carl Jung said that what we resist persists. And that's the secret no one tells you about peace. It's not found by pushing the noise away, but by listening to what it's trying to say. When you stop trying to escape your thoughts, you begin to hear the truth beneath them. There's a story I once heard about a woman who couldn't stop replaying the end of a relationship in her mind. Every night, she'd lie in bed, thinking of every word, every look, every possible reason why it went wrong. She couldn't stop. One evening, a friend asked her, if your mind could speak to you as a person, what would it say? She paused. Tears filled her eyes, and she whispered, it would say it's sorry. It's just trying to keep me safe. That's the paradox of overthinking. It's both the wound and the bandage. It hurts you, but it also believes it's protecting you. Once you see that, compassion begins to replace frustration. You don't need to silence your thoughts. You need to change your relationship with them. When you notice your mind spiraling, try this. Instead of saying, I can't stop thinking, say, I notice that I'm thinking a lot because something in me feels unsafe. That single shift turns you from the prisoner of your thoughts into the witness of them. And witnessing is power. It's the bridge between reaction and awareness. It's the moment when you stop being dragged by your mind and start walking beside it. Sometimes peace doesn't come in a grand revelation. It arrives in small moments when you pause before replying, when you take a deep breath instead of a defensive one, when you let something go without needing closure. That's what it means to start healing the overthinking mind, not by fighting it, but by remembering you are the sky and your thoughts are just passing clouds. There's a quiet kind of courage that comes with learning to let your thoughts pass without chasing them. It doesn't look heroic. No one claps for you when you choose silence over spiraling. But it's one of the most powerful acts of healing you'll ever do. Because when you stop engaging with every thought, you begin to see how fragile they really are. How they rise and fall like waves, convincing you for a moment that they are the ocean when they're only movement across its surface. You've probably spent years believing that if you could just think the right thought, you could fix your life. That if you could figure out what went wrong, why they left, or what you should have done differently, the ache would stop. But you can't think your way out of pain that was meant to be felt. Jung often spoke about the shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide, repress, or deny. What he didn't always say outright is that your overthinking often guards the door to that shadow. Every time you circle a thought without resolution, it's because there's something underneath you're afraid to feel. The thought is the armor. The emotion is the truth. Maybe that truth is grief, or loneliness, or the unbearable weight of feeling like you were never enough for someone you loved. Maybe it's the memory of being unheard, unseen, forgotten. The mind circles these feelings because it doesn't know how to hold them. It believes that if it can solve them, it won't have to feel them. But emotions don't disappear when ignored, they sink deeper, shaping the quiet corners of your life. They whisper through your choices, your relationships, your fears, until one day you wake up and realize you're not living freely, you're living carefully. You're making every move to avoid the possibility of pain. Yet here's the truth that changes everything. The only way out of the storm is through it. You can't silence the mind without first hearing the heart. The moment you allow yourself to feel what you've avoided without judgment, without story, without trying to fix it, begins to move. And in that movement, peace returns. The overthinking mind is just a guardian that forgot you've grown. It's time to gently tell it, thank you for protecting me. but I don't need you to keep watch anymore. When you start to do that, something miraculous happens. The same thoughts that once haunted you lose their power. They become lighter, like distant echoes in a house you've finally made peace with. And maybe for the first time in years, you'll feel what silence truly is: not the absence of thought, but the presence of peace. There comes a moment, often in the middle of an ordinary day, when you realize that your overthinking isn't about the world outside you at all. It's about the world within. It's about how much you've carried without knowing it: the unspoken words, the swallowed tears, the years of pretending you were fine while something inside you begged to be seen. You begin to notice that the same thoughts you have every night aren't random. They're messengers. Each one is pointing to a part of you that's still waiting for closure, for compassion, for love. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Those words can feel heavy, almost cruel, until you understand what they mean. Your overthinking is the unconscious becoming conscious. It's the moment your soul says, "Enough hiding. Let's heal this." Think about it: how many of your thoughts are really just echoes of the past? The way you doubt your worth when someone withdraws love. The way you replay conversations searching for what you did wrong. The way you can't relax until everything feels safe, certain, controlled. Those aren't flaws. Those are survival patterns born from the times you felt powerless. The mind learned to protect you by analyzing, anticipating, over-preparing. It became your shield. And it worked for a while, but now that same shield keeps you from feeling life as it is. Jung spoke of the individuation process, the path of becoming whole. It's not about becoming perfect or enlightened. It's about meeting every part of yourself with honesty. The anxious part, the angry part, the part that's still grieving something you never got. You don't silence them. You listen. You give them a voice so they no longer need to scream through your thoughts. And as you do, something shifts. You realize that peace isn't the absence of thinking, it's the presence of trust. It's when you stop needing every answer before you can rest. It's when you let life unfold without your constant interference. You start to notice small changes. The pauses between your thoughts grow longer. Your body feels softer. Your reactions less sharp. You find yourself smiling at moments that used to overwhelm you. You stop rushing to fix everything because you understand now some things were never broken, only misunderstood. Peace doesn't come with a bang. It arrives quietly, like sunlight seeping through the cracks of a room you once thought was dark forever. And when it does, you'll see what Jung meant all along. The mind isn't a prison. It's a map. Every thought, every fear, every doubt, it all leads you back to the place you were always meant to find: yourself. Sometimes the hardest part of peace is believing you deserve it, especially when your mind has been your battlefield for so long. When you've lived years believing that being at war with yourself is normal, that anxiety means you care, that rest means you're lazy, that peace is something you have to earn. But peace isn't a reward. It's your natural state. It's what's left when you stop trying to prove your worth through thinking, doing, fixing. It's what appears when you let your heart finally unclench. Imagine this. You're standing in front of a mirror, not the kind that reflects your appearance, but one that shows you everything you've carried: the guilt, the anger, the unspoken goodbyes, the love you gave without being met, the endless thinking you've done just to make sense of it all. And then, in that mirror, you see something unexpected: you. Not the broken version, not the anxious one, but the soul underneath it all, still whole, still shining, still waiting. Carl Jung believed that wholeness is not achieved by cutting off the dark, but by integrating it. You can't silence the overthinking mind by rejecting it. You heal it by holding it close, by saying, "I see why you think so much. I see why you worry. I see why you can't rest." When you meet your thoughts with compassion instead of criticism, they start to soften. They start to trust you again. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Your mind doesn't want to hurt you. It just doesn't trust the world to keep you safe. It's been on alert for years, scanning every moment for signs of danger. So when you suddenly ask it to relax, it resists. Not because it hates peace, but because it's never experienced peace that lasted. That's why healing takes time. It's not about erasing thoughts. It's about showing your mind, moment by moment, that safety doesn't come from control. It comes from presence. When a thought rises, what if they don't love me anymore? What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? Instead of arguing with it, breathe. Feel your feet on the ground. Touch something real. Let your body remind your mind, we are here now, and we are safe. Over time, those words become an anchor. You'll still have thoughts, but they'll float instead of drag. You'll still care, but without clinging. You'll still feel, but without drowning. And one day, you'll realize the miracle. The mind you once feared has become your ally. Its chaos now sounds like curiosity. Its noise now feels like motion. It's no longer fighting you, it's walking beside you. And in that quiet companionship, you'll find something even deeper than peace. You'll find home. There's something sacred about the moment you stop running from yourself. It doesn't happen in a single instant, it unfolds slowly, like dawn creeping across a sleepless night. At first, you don't even notice it. You just realize that your mind, for once, isn't as loud. That you can sit in silence without flinching. That the same thoughts that used to overwhelm you now pass through like gentle rain. That's when you begin to understand what Jung meant by individuation, the return to wholeness. Not perfection, not a flawless state of mind, but a reconciliation, a homecoming. For years, you thought your thoughts were the enemy. But what if they were the bridge? Each anxious replay, each sleepless night, each what if, they all led you here. They forced you to look at the places within you that longed for love. They were never trying to destroy you. They were trying to reveal you. And maybe this is the real purpose of overthinking, not to punish, but to awaken. To bring to the surface all the pieces of you that were silenced when you were young. The version of you that learned to be quiet so others could be comfortable. The one who apologized too soon, who gave too much, who mistook attention for affection. Overthinking was the only language that version of you had left. But now you can translate it. Now you can hear what it's been saying all along. Please don't leave me behind. You don't have to fight your thoughts anymore. You can let them come and go like old friends. Some days they'll arrive carrying sadness. Some days, doubt. Some days, they'll be kind. But no matter how they appear, you can meet them with stillness, with the knowing that they no longer define you. Peace doesn't mean you never think again. It means your thoughts lose their authority. They pass through the space of your awareness like wind through open windows. You are the room, not the wind. And in that realization, life begins to feel different. The things that once felt urgent begin to soften. You stop needing to understand every ending. You stop explaining your worth to people who never learned how to see it. You stop chasing closure because you realize peace isn't found at the end of the story, it's found when you stop fighting the story itself. Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And you've been awakening slowly, quietly, beautifully. You've been learning that the mind doesn't need to be silenced, it needs to be heard, then loved, then released. So if you're listening right now, and your thoughts are still loud, let them be. Don't rush the quiet. Peace isn't a reward at the end of the journey, it's the soil you walk on as you begin to trust yourself again. One evening, long after the noise of the day had faded, you might find yourself sitting by the window, watching the city lights shimmer like restless stars. There's something about the stillness of that moment, the way time seems to hold its breath, that reminds you you've survived every storm your mind has ever created, every sleepless night, every spiral of what if and why me. You're still here, and for the first time, maybe you can feel it, the quiet strength beneath all that chaos, the resilience that was never loud, never proud, but steady, patient, waiting for you to notice. This is what healing looks like. Not a grand transformation, not a life without pain, but an intimacy with yourself that feels unshakable. You begin to trust your emotions instead of fearing them. You begin to understand that sadness isn't a step backward, and overthinking isn't failure. It's a call to presence. Carl Jung once wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And in those words lives a kind of freedom that the overthinking mind could never imagine. Because when you truly see that, you realize your thoughts are just stories, some true, some distorted, some borrowed, but none of them are you. And when you stop believing every story your mind tells, something beautiful begins to unfold. You start living instead of surviving. You start seeing beauty in imperfection. You laugh more easily. You forgive faster, not because it's easy, but because you finally understand that holding on to pain only feeds the noise. The mind thrives on unfinished stories, but the soul thrives on acceptance. When you accept what is fully, without conditions, the mind has nothing left to fight. It exhales, it surrenders, it rests. You start to find peace in the smallest things. The rhythm of your breath, the way sunlight touches your face, the sound of your own laughter after a long time of forgetting what it felt like. These aren't small moments. They're sacred reminders that peace was never lost. It was just buried under thought. And so, when the mind starts again, when it races and spins and tries to pull you back into the storm you don't resist, you just whisper, "I see you." And in that acknowledgement, you reclaim your power. Because peace isn't the end of thinking. It's the beginning of awareness. It's remembering that you are not your thoughts. You are the stillness that holds them. And maybe that's the miracle of all this, that even in your darkest overthinking, you were never truly lost. You were just on your way home to yourself. There's a moment in every healing journey when you finally understand that peace isn't something you have to chase, it's something you allow. You don't earn it by being perfect. You don't reach it by solving every problem or silencing every thought. It's what rises naturally when you stop resisting the present moment. You might remember a time when you thought peace meant never feeling pain again. You hoped that once the mind quieted, life would only be calm and clear. But peace isn't the absence of storms, it's the ability to stay still while they pass. It's knowing that even when the wind howls, there's a part of you that cannot be moved. Carl Jung believed that wholeness comes from embracing opposites, light and dark, love and fear, thought and silence. Maybe that's what your overthinking has been teaching you all along. That you can't truly know calm without first understanding chaos. You can't appreciate stillness without having lived through noise. The mind will always think. That's what it was designed to do. It collects, protects, predicts, but now you know you don't have to believe everything it says. You can let thoughts pass like clouds, some heavy with rain, some light as air, without trying to control the sky. And when you do, something shifts deep within. Life starts to feel slower, fuller. The small things begin to matter again, the warmth of a morning coffee, the softness of sheets, the laughter you didn't realize you'd missed. You find yourself in awe of how quiet life can be when you stop narrating it. Overthinking loses its grip, not because you fight it, but because you stop feeding it. You start trusting your inner silence more than your inner noise. You begin to notice the difference between the voice of fear and the voice of intuition. Fear is loud, urgent, always demanding answers. Intuition is quiet, steady, patient. It doesn't rush. It knows. That's the gift of becoming conscious. The ability to pause and say, "This thought is fear, not truth." And every time you do, the storm weakens. The mind learns to rest. You'll still have moments of doubt, of course. You'll still catch yourself spiraling sometimes. But now you'll meet those moments with tenderness instead of panic. You'll breathe. You'll smile gently at yourself. You'll remember that healing isn't about never falling. It's about knowing you can stand up again, softer than before. And in those quiet pauses between thoughts, in that sacred stillness where your soul finally exhales, you'll realize something. You didn't silence your mind by force. You freed it by love. There comes a time when you stop asking your mind to be quiet and instead start asking your heart to speak. That's when you realize peace was never hidden in your thoughts. It was waiting in your body. in the breath you've been holding for years, in the space between words where truth finally whispers. You've spent so much of your life trying to think your way into peace, when what you really needed was to feel your way into it. The body remembers everything. The mind tries to forget the moments you pretended to be okay, the love you gave without receiving, the boundaries you didn't set because you were afraid of losing someone. All of it lives inside you, asking not to be analyzed, but acknowledged. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." It sounds harsh, but it's not meant to wound, it's meant to awaken. Because consciousness isn't just awareness, it's intimacy with your own soul. It's learning to hold your pain without judgment, to let it speak instead of silencing it. Overthinking was never the real problem. It was the symptom of a deeper longing to understand, to feel safe, to be seen. Your mind spun stories because your heart wasn't being heard. So when you finally turn inward and listen, really listen, the stories begin to dissolve. And when the stories dissolve, what's left is something so simple, so pure, it almost feels unfamiliar presence. The quiet kind that doesn't demand anything. You find yourself breathing differently. You stop needing to fix everything. You start living with more ease. The world doesn't change, but the way you experience it does. You stop measuring your worth through how much you do or how well you handle things. You stop letting other people's chaos dictate your peace. You learn to trust the rhythm of your own heart. And yes, there will still be days when your mind gets loud again, when fear knocks at the door and you feel the pull to spiral back into old patterns. But this time, you'll know what to do. You'll smile softly and whisper, "I see you, but I'm staying here." That's the difference between who you were and who you're becoming. You're no longer trying to escape your thoughts, you're learning to walk with them. You're no longer afraid of feeling you're grateful, you can. You're no longer searching for peace, you're remembering that it was never lost. And as you sit there, maybe listening to this in the dark or on a quiet morning, I want you to know this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. Every thought, every fear, every sleepless night was leading you here to the place where your mind finally bows to your heart. That's the moment you stop thinking about peace and start living it.